these are not agents, these are officers. Now, there is an important difference. Officers are actual members of the organization. They are, they are people who are fully employed. They are actually part of the GRU. Agents are people who are contracted to do a particular job. And it's an important distinction because these are not agents. They are GRU officers. And they have conducted, as you rightly say, a warlike act in the United Kingdom, which is the use of a chemical weapon in foreign soil. That has to be seen as warlike. I mean, that is an extremely aggressive thing to do. Now, what should we do about it is really the question now. And the key thing to do is to get together with our allies, in NATO, but also wider than NATO, and really clamp down on this. Because actually we do know that there are GRU officers living undercover in other European countries and other countries in the Middle East and around the world. And we need to be very clear that the actions that they have been conducting, we keep seeing it in London. We've been hearing about it in London. But let's not kid ourselves. This has been going on in parts of Western and Eastern Europe. In fact, even in Montenegro, they attempted to murder the Prime Minister. I mean, this is extraordinary, the level of violence that they are exporting. And so we need to actually work together and clamp down on this. The second thing we need to do is we need to hit Putin where it hurts. And that is in his wallet. We need to make sure that the oligarchs who effectively have done a deal with Putin, he holds the power and they get to play with the money. Well, you know what? They don't get to play with the money because this isn't on. This is absolutely threatening not just to us in the direct sense, and the murder of an innocent UK British woman is one indicator of that, but this is a threat to the world order that has kept the peace since the end of the Second World War. Russia, in the last few years, has shot down a civilian aircraft over Ukraine, has invaded Georgia, has occupied parts of Georgia and changed the border by force in the Crimea. What we're seeing is an extremely hostile state that is doing what every dictatorship does when it starts to lose power at home. It exports violence.
Well, this is an extremely hostile state, and for some reason, people seem to be surprised that Vladimir Putin thinks that he can act with impunity and carry out these acts. But of course, the reason why he thinks that is because no action is ever taken. A few sanctions here, a few sanctions there, a few Russian oligarchs perhaps refused a visa here and there. Makes no difference to Vladimir Putin because he's not going to actually stop his actions unless or until he's forced to do so. When do you think that we are going to be willing to take the sort of action that is going to make him sit up and take notice? Because the reality is, you say hit it where it hurts. He's got $60 million siphoned away somewhere.
300 billion.
300 billion. Oh, it's even more than the 60 million. Well, this is the reality. He's never going to be short of a penny, and he's going to be able to strong arm enough of these oligarchs who may be unhappy if they can't now travel to London or Paris or wherever because of any sanctions. This isn't going to stop him trying to appear the strong man to the Russian people, is it?
No, of course you're right. And the thing I'm talking about is, the bit that we miss is every dictatorship works with an aristocracy, if you like. And his aristocrats are the oligarchs. They're the people who he's done the deal with to hold power, to control the assets, to control the money, and to control the country. Now, the truth is, actually, he's getting weaker. Actually, he is getting older, and every dictatorship has this problem. It's the problem of transfer of power. What I mean by that, Julia, is at what point do you decide that your deal with Vladimir Putin is no longer worth having, and if you are to keep your money, your power, your influence, you need to make a deal with the next guy? How do you do that? How do you make that transition work? And that's a really hard thing for democracies to do, as indeed you're seeing in the UK today. But it's a much, much harder thing for dictatorships to do. And that's what we're seeing in Russia. That's why Putin has got to clamp down harder and be more brutal, because he's got to make sure that people think that they still must do a deal with him and they mustn't look to the future. But the truth is he is aging. For all the Botox he's getting injected, for all the bizarre staged stunts he's doing, this is a man who is weakening by the day. And he's doing so for the very simple reason that we're all getting older. So everybody knows that his time is running out and people are beginning to look around at alternatives. That's why he's being increasingly violent. Now, what we can do is we can speed up the process. We can say, those deals that you struck in the late 90s, when he came back and he was in Leningrad, and then the other deals he struck when he came to Moscow for the first time as president, and he gave you access to all this money, and you were able to live the lifestyle that you wanted, and the deal was worth having. Guess what? It's not worth having anymore. You can't send your kid to that English private school. You cannot park your yacht at Cowes for whatever season. You can't do the things you wanted to do. You have to stay in Russia with all the other oligarchs, and you have to live in, effectively, a very large prison. And by the way, all those foreign goods you wanted, the Gucci handbags, the whatever shoes, can't have those either. Now, let's see how long it takes for you to see that the rewards, the trappings of power that Putin gave you, they're just not worth having anymore. And maybe it's time for you to start looking around.
So it's going to be a bit of a long game. And it's going to be crucial that we have strong support from our key allies, because we know we've got problems with France and Germany. They rely on these gas pipelines. We know also problems in America.
Germany
But not just the allegations that we've seen from Bob Woodward's book about Donald Trump being furious that the State Department decided to expel so many of the Russian agents in America in the wake of the Novichok revelations, but also, of course, this latest article in the New York Times. We know we haven't got full support from the people who should be our full allies.
Well, it's a mixed picture, Julia. I accept that.
But it shouldn't be a mixed picture, should it?
I also accept that. And I'm very glad that we've now got a foreign secretary who is able to talk to his opposite numbers as equals, and who is getting a very, very positive reaction from them. We're really seeing a change of tone. And what we need to do is we need to use that new tone to get out there and get this message out. But look, let's not undersell. When the Prime Minister went to the European Council in March, just after March, do you remember, just after the Skripal affair, we got total support from our European allies. Total. They all expelled, or all bar very few, expelled Russian intelligence officers and diplomats who were operating in their country. They all took a very, very clear message. But we must do more, Julia. You're absolutely right. And I tell you what concerns me greatly is when I see Vladimir Putin going to the wedding of the Austrian foreign minister and dancing with her at her wedding. This is not a joke. The guy we're dealing with here is not a sort of lovable rogue. This is a guy who has personally ordered the murders, not just of people like the Skripals, but hundreds of journalists, hundreds of civil activists, and even now is holding hundreds and hundreds of Russian citizens in prison. Not only do the Europeans deserve better, more importantly, the Russians deserve better.